But if you want to truly solve an issue, especially a crisis like this one, you can't keep just hammering over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. That's how we got here to begin with. Netanyahu, everyone in the world is sitting on the bleachers. He's just like talking shit. I don't really care about what he has to say. Meet the Hamas, attack victim families who want peace. Let's take a look at this. This is actually really interesting that the Wall Street Journal is doing this.
Of blood, of revenge is going on for.
Yeah, but we're back. We're back to covering the news. And we're also back, when I come back, of course, the top of the hour ad break comes back too. Here it is. Let's continue.
For over a century. We are acting the same way and expecting different results.
It's horrible to see when there are people getting killed, especially innocent people getting killed.
I think there is, in both of the sides, majority that want to live in peace. We can't destroy Gaza. We can't. Saturday morning, I woke up.
7:30, checking my WhatsApp that there are sirens and alarm.
The bomb sirens.
The fact that Wall Street Journal put this out tells me the NatSec blob is freaking out over Israel's actions. I think that the major problem here for what Israel is doing with impunity is that it is one, undermining America's influence in what its regional allies do. Okay. In the eyes of the entire world, in the eyes especially of the third world, or those who are disconnected from the periphery nations, those who are disconnected from being immediately involved with the United States of America. It also shows everyone else that, America's influence in control over Israel's waning, but also, when it's not the case really, but also it has a capacity to pull the entire region into conflict. And that is a terrifying prospect for everybody. Because remember what I told you guys, there is a calculation that the military-industrial complex engages in, right, with Russia. When, there's a limit to how much help will be afforded to Ukraine. That limit is, old weapons that we'll send, maybe HIMARS down the line, yada, yada, yada. But it's not enough to trigger nuclear holocaust with a nuclear superpower. That's why there's red lines that are not crossed, right? That are not really mentioned even, or only mentioned when push comes to shove, like instituting a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which would mean that American fighter jets have to blow up Russian fighter jets. Like that would never happen, right? They can't do that because they don't want to go into a full-blown regional. They don't want to change the dynamics of the battle in Ukraine into one that is two nuclear-armed states fighting against one another, which is mutually assured destruction. Nobody wants that to happen. With Israel, obviously, technically, Israel is a nuclear-armed state, but what America does not want is for Israel and Lebanon, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Yemen and Iranian-backed militia forces within Syria and Iraq to invade Israel on multiple fronts, opening up like a 6-front war, okay, that America has to deal with by coming in with aircraft carriers and planes and helicopters and the like, okay? They don't want that to happen because that's not good for anybody, because that is too much war. Does that make sense? Like there is an amount of war that Israel can conduct and engage in that Americans calculate is totally legally permissible, totally valid, it's economically viable. But if you go past a certain point, then it no longer is economically viable because it spells full-blown catastrophe and collapse, which is why America keeps saying, hey, please keep it, keep it marginal, keep it minimal. Like, we know you are bloodthirsty. We get it. Like, you want to fucking kill every Palestinian for its... because you think that they're all equally responsible for October 7th. But you can't do that because if you keep blowing up Palestinians, like you're one, making it harder for us to engage in normalization agreements with other Gulf states, because now they, or at least like the populations in the Gulf states, are going to get very mad and turn sour and maybe even like engage in revolts. against their own governments. If there is some kind of like Abraham Accord continuation, like it's just Israel's own bloodthirst is getting in its way once again with America's goals in the region. That's precisely what's happening here. That's why they want to dial it back. They don't want to dial it back for humanitarian reasons. They want to dial it back for economic reasons and also for reasons of America's geopolitical interests in the region. That's it. Has Israel not gone past that point, though? I think Israel has gone past that point. But in America's eyes, they clearly haven't. Because if Israel had gone past that point, according to America, they would stop. America would force them to stop instead of just telling them, do like a lighter version of ethnic cleansing and not the full-blown version that you're engaging in. Considering the fact that America has not shut off the money faucet or told them to stop completely, it seems like they're still within the confines.
Started to go off in Jerusalem.
I understand what is going on. I call my mom. Mom, are you okay?
My dad told me, yes, there are many shooting and missiles landing around, but we are okay, we are in the safe room.
And when I turned on my phone around 8:20, 2 text messages popped up immediately. The first said, I love you, and immediately the next one said, I'm sorry. He was at the music festival when the massacre started to take place. All the young people tried to take cover in these roadside bomb shelters. It came under heavy attack with hand grenades thrown in, and an RPG was shot into it. The eyewitnesses told us that his left arm around the elbow down had been blown off. And he walked out of the bomb shelter.
Israel's the only country in history to give warnings before bombings. Yeah, Israel's also one of the very few countries in 2023 to have such a rigid apartheid structure that it can only continue to enforce with the entirety of the Western world defending it. Without America funding and facilitating this apartheid, Israel would not be able to maintain it. So the idea that they're giving warnings before blowing up residential buildings inside of their own fucking concentration camp is ridiculous. How about I give you a warning before I blow up your house? You would never find that to be appropriate, right? And then after the fact, I say, well, intel shows that there was a enemy combatant inside of your fucking house, or maybe even under your house. You might not even know that there's an enemy combatant under your house, but that doesn't mean shit. Chatter's fucking wrong. The U.S. warned Nagasaki and Hiroshima before the atomic bombs, which were also morally reprehensible. Yes, I guess it's chill though to nuke a fucking entire civilian population. Those knocks are also inconsistent. Sometimes they knock, sometimes they don't. And regardless, even if they knock before they blow up, they still blow up a fucking home. So it's still completely ridiculous.
It was loaded on a Hamas pickup.
Yeah, that's not even true. The U.S. also did during Desert Storm. They dropped pamphlets that said, tomorrow we drop bombs, and they didn't lie. They did drop bombs the next day every time.
Truck. His last phone cell signal was found inside of Gaza at 10:25 in the morning, and that's all we knew.
Pizza Hyman was in a home in kibbutz near Oz where a quarter of the residents were killed, have gone missing, or were taken hostage. Japan would have never surrendered without the USA nuking it. Yeah, that's also a historical. Many people have written about this exact same thing. Japan had already brought up a conditional surrender. America said, no conditions on the surrender. One of the major conditions being that the emperor maintains his position of power. Except America nuked twice for no reason. Like, let's say they had the nuke once, but they nuked twice, 2 days in between. And then also still allowed the Japanese emperor to survive. So what happened? They literally were on board with the conditions regardless after dropping 2 fucking nukes. Just a basic understanding of history will show that you are completely wrong on this issue. It was Sean that did a video on it, yes. Also, the funny thing is, this is a very like Israel style defense of the nuking of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I do like that you are making an example. You're responding with an example that like Israel also engages with whenever they talk about it. Whenever they talk about how their morally permissible bombings occur. Now, one other counter to this also is that America itself. This was one reason that they used. The other reason was, well, the firebombing campaign would have been way more deadly. And it was. Firebombing Tokyo and many other civilian dense populations was brutal. It actually killed a shit ton of people, and it destroyed so much public infrastructure. Now, the answer to that was, well, we had to drop one nuke and then we could have stopped the fucking firebombing, is a ridiculous answer. Like, oh, one big war crime is better than like a succession of war crimes over the course of a month is ridiculous. How about no war crimes, right? That is supposed to be the answer. It's not that like we should do more war crimes or we should do one big war crime one time instead of multiple war crimes. So you're saying it was effective, grunt cores. Brother, this is a ridiculous fucking assessment. Okay, might is right politics will find you in a really precarious position when America is no longer the dominant force. Okay, I just want to mention here that like since we're on the tail end of our crumbling empire with 800 military bases all around the world, and I'm sure you're familiar with this since you're either a LARPing tactical gravy seals dipshit with the name Grunt Corps or a LARPing tactical dipshit who is a veteran and still loves the fucking good old days that where you could eat MREs all fucking day and pizza when you were lucky before you were deployed, and then still maintain a decent physique, which you no longer can because you're a couch-ridden potato with PTSD as a consequence of doing the bidding of American empire overseas that destroyed you, rotted you to your very core, and then lied to you about fixing you up and never actually ended up fixing you. One or the other. These are two options that of what you are. Okay, destroying infrastructure is the point. Whether I agree with it or not is not besides the point. No, you are agreeing with it because you said it was effective. It was effective. Ridiculous. Okay, what's effective is that what happened to you is unacceptable. Either you are a hoorah dipshit who never served, or you are a hoorah dipshit who did serve and ruined your fucking body. Okay? Both of these situations happen as a consequence of American chauvinism, Western chauvinism, American exceptionalism, and the jingoistic attitude that was baked into your fucking brain from early on. You have the moral obligation to snap out of it, okay? To become human again. Please.
In 10 a.m., we lost contact with her. My sister called me. She tried to call mom again, and the Hamas answered her phone. A few days after, we saw in a Hamas Facebook page that they took her into a car. And that's all we know until today.
Bilha and Yaakov Inan were at home in their village of Netiv Hazara near Israel's border in northern Gaza.
I watched the news and I saw Toyota trucks in Sderot. I saw the wall falling apart. We tried to call again and again and there was no answer. And around 5 in the afternoon, the security guy of the community called my brother-in-law and he told him that my parents' house is burned to ashes with 2 bodies inside. I'm drowning in this ocean of sorrow and pain and agony. But my mind is very clear. My goal number 1 is to bring all those that are kidnapped and being held hostage back home. And it must be through a diplomatic agreement. Goal number 2 is to stop the war and immediate ceasefire.
We have these constant cycles of extreme violence, and it seems that it's really not working. I don't know that it's ever worked anywhere.
I have a lot of anger on the Hamas people, of our government, but I don't think to escalate the war will help us, not to bring them back and not to give them a peaceful life after.
Innocent civilians in Gaza are being killed. Their death won't bring my parents back. Their death won't bring those that are kidnapped back to their families.
For some people, a natural response to trauma is to feel hatred. This pain that we are feeling is so unique and indescribable, but I really would never wish it on anyone. Not anyone. Not even the people who are doing it to me. That's how bad the pain is.
When direct victims of the horror are displaying more restraint than decision makers and media talking heads, you know the world is fucked. Yeah, because the media talking heads are operating under the direction of whatever the fucking military objectives are, whatever the economic objectives of the military-industrial complex is, okay? The brainwashing runs so deep. I literally had a multiple hour-long conversation with my mother that Israel has a higher chance of killing the hostages than Hamas. Yeah, I mean, it's basically, what is the rational objective here? You don't take hostages just so you can kill them, right? They killed a shit ton of people. They killed 1,200 people, okay? And the overwhelming majority of the people that the militants killed were civilian. A lot of them were just like literally driving around and shooting at whoever the fuck they could because they were just like, they were just inside of Israel proper for the first time in an overwhelming number with an overwhelming force. I had multiple hour-long conversations with my father. Hamas and ISIS were not the same thing. Yeah, it's just, the question is this. They already killed 1,200 people. Why would they take 230 hostages if they want to just like simply kill them in a moment when they get like passionate and angry, right? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If they were to, and by the way, I'm not going to say that they would never kill a hostage. They 100% would. They 100% would. Any militant faction, terrorist, not terrorist, whatever you call it, white, black, brown, Muslim, 100%, they would execute a hostage if push came to shove, but they would do it on camera, okay? They would never just like kill a hostage off camera for funsies, okay? That's insane. Why the fuck would they kill a hostage off camera? That defeats the purpose of killing the hostage. That defeats the purpose of taking the hostage. When your supplies are really low, when you have really limited supplies because you're under full-blown blockade, right? There is no reason to just like fucking execute a hostage unless you are doing it as a statement to show you're serious, to say, listen, we made you a demand, you refused to negotiate with us, so here's now, we're killing this hostage now because of you. Like, that would be the only reason, because the hostages are the only leverage you have. Meanwhile, it's not even real leverage because Israel doesn't want to negotiate with Hamas, it seems. You are assigning perfect rationality to terrorists, which simply isn't true. No, the terrorism designation, for the record, is quite literally the reason why you don't want to assign perfect rationality in this circumstance. Okay? Like, there is no perfect rationality in a bunch of fucking militant brigades operating under a command structure that is divided at best, okay? That's precisely the reason why October 7th and the innocent civilian death toll was so high, right? But once the hostages are taken, there's a very specific reason for taking those hostages. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect rationality. It just is self-preservation. Do you understand? It's so stupid. Where's the rationality of killing the hostages instead of negotiating? It doesn't make sense. They would have never taken a hostage in that situation then. You know, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, why would they take a fucking hostage? Just because they like are so bloodthirsty that they were like, oh, I'll just take this hostage with me so I can kill the hostage later when I'm like hungry for blood again. Like, is that what you think is going on? No, there's a reason. Stop looking for rationality in hostage taking. No, the reason why you're saying that is because you don't want me to. You don't want me to look at it in a serious way. You want to just say, no, these guys are fucking bloodthirsty monsters who are just operating on the good and bad scale. That's it. That's why you say openly, don't look for rationality here. Just let fucking Israel keep bombing and shut the fuck up and bomb the hostages themselves. You might not even recognize why you're saying that. Of course there's a reason. Otherwise, why the fuck would they take hostages? Why would they take hostages? Why? Do you think hostages are like fucking a road soda? Do you think it's a fucking snack? Like, these guys, they're like vampires. They love sucking the blood of like Israeli civilians, and then they were like, oh, let's bring some more back to the base camp so we can just like keep eating the Israeli hostages every now and then when we get thirsty for it. Is that what you think is going on? No, there's a fucking reason. Things do not operate on the basis of like good and bad in the real world. People aren't just like, people can do bad things, okay? And for example, October 7th, bad, very bad, okay? Obviously, very bad. But if you want to truly solve an issue, you can't just like keep fucking pummeling it with brute force. If you want to solve an issue, especially an issue like this, especially a crisis like this one, you can't keep fucking just hammering over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. That's how we got here to begin with, okay? Do you understand? Yeah, in simple terms, serial killers don't take hostages. They just kill with no regard. Taking hostages means you're put thought into it and want to leverage for a reason. Exactly. And the problem here is that, like, I'm not saying this was cool or good that they took hostages. Like, I'm not saying that at all, okay? I'm very much against taking hostages. I'm very much against killing civilians. I'm very much against killing in general, which is why I want this conflict to end. But there are plenty out there who do not want this conflict to end at all. They want to continue it as slowly but assuredly, as best as possible, as they slowly but surely engage in ethnic cleansing and ethnic displacement and take over more land. That's not true. They will take them and torture them to death. Why would they do that without showing on camera why they're doing such a thing? Oh, you mean the serial killers? Okay. That's so freakish. I'm not even saying that like Hamas won't kill the hostages. They could. I don't believe they have, but they could. Just as easily, they could do that. But there's a reason why they treat the hostages, as far as we understand, by the hostages, relatively well. Because they want to do propaganda off of it. This is a fact that Israel knows too. That's precisely the reason why they got very mad when that older lady gave the international community an interview as soon as she was released. The lady that said shalom to the Hamas militant and shook his hand because they wanted to do propaganda. That's why they fucking treated the hostages very well. Taking a hostage is not an easy process. It requires a tremendous amount of forethought. You have to literally plan it for years on end. Why the fuck would they just blow it and kill the hostages? And if the only answer you have to that is because they're just like bloodthirsty monsters, then like, how can I have a conversation with you about this? Like, that's not interesting, nor is it actually intelligent. And it's not how you're supposed to solve a problem. In order to solve a problem, you have to identify why that problem is existing to begin with. Okay, you have to go to the root cause. You have to figure out why this is happening. And if your answer when you get to the root cause of the problem is, well, some people are just bad guys and they're bad because they love Allah and Allah told them to be bad and because they're anti-Semitic or whatever the fuck, then yeah, okay, well, you'll definitely turn around and agree with like everything that Israel's doing right now. Because why shouldn't you? They're bad. They're fucking subhuman. They're not real human beings. Like, there's no reason. They took up arms because they're anti-Semitic specifically. That is, yes, exactly, the Sam Harris argument. Islam is anti-Semitic and it creates anti-Semitism. And that's the reason why these guys are behaving the way that they are, because they're anti-Semitic. Like, they're a bunch of fucking campus activists who are also anti-Semitic, right? You didn't arrive at anything. You didn't actually arrive at a decent analysis over the subject matter. You didn't come close to a solution beyond what Israel is doing in that position, in that point. Now, I asked you the question, if what Israel is doing is so successful, how the fuck hasn't it been successful the 8 other times they did this? Not to the same degree, but they always fucking go into Gaza in what they call mowing the lawn. So why didn't it work the last time? Were they just like, yeah, we don't want to like completely eviscerate Hamas? You think that's what they were saying? They were like, no, we just want to cripple Hamas. We don't want to completely eviscerate Hamas. We don't want to completely eviscerate Hamas. We just want to, we just want to do that. We just want to like, push him a little bit. Just one more siege, bro. Just one more dead Palestinian child, bro. And I promise, just one more dead Palestinian child, and then Hamas is over, okay? I'm Palestinian, I'm against Hamas. I'm lumped in with people who deserve to die and terrorist sympathizers, although politically I oppose Hamas for various reasons. What do you mean, terrorist sympathizers? Like, do you think people that live in Gaza, are just automatically terrorist sympathizers? Even if they are sympathizers of Hamas, do you think, like, let's say a child is a sympathizer of Hamas. Do you think they deserve to die? Is that your argument? Like, I don't really understand what you're trying to say. Because then it means like, oh, if you voted for Hamas, or even if you have any kind of sympathy for any kind of violent, emancipatory, militant faction that is like actually fucking fighting back, right? Good or bad, reactionary or not, if you don't sit there and just fucking take it when Israel is like brutally and mercilessly slaughtering your people in the West Bank and taking up more and more land in the West Bank, then you turn around and your answer is like, no, we're supposed to take that, and then magically one day Israel will fucking allow us to coexist peacefully. Well, if that was the case, then you would be able to, coexist peacefully in the West Bank. If that was the case, the Palestinian Authority would be the most powerful Palestinian institution on the planet. The most popular Palestinian institution on the planet. You know what I mean? If I ever defended Palestinians, I'm automatically labeled that. Yeah, well, that's ridiculous. You should defend Palestinians. It's ridiculous to say that you can't defend Palestinians. I don't care. Why do you think people refuse to look at the root cause and just go ooga booga genocide then peace? Because it corresponds to the interests of the Israeli government. So I believe in the subject of hostage taking from both sides as Hamas tries doing it for negotiations, but I'm not too sure our view the Zionist Israel taking hostages to pressure out info about locations and such. No, the forcible detention, the unlawful, unauthorized detention of thousands of people under, the Israeli military courts where there's no legal recourse, okay, is not done specifically for taking hostages so you can use them. It's just a part of running an apartheid. You have to, it's the same principle behind why you have to constantly maintain a presence, right? To show that the knife is always there. The IDF routinely conducts military operations in areas inside of the West Bank where they know civilians live. Why do they do such a thing? Well, if you ask former IDF veterans who operated in the West Bank who started breaking the silence, they will tell you the reason why they do that is specifically so that they apply pressure at all times to show the West Bank Palestinian civilians that they're there, that they can come into their house, break down their door, and maybe arrest them on a moment's notice. You have to do that. You have to do that in an apartheid regime. Otherwise, people will go, okay, well, what the fuck are you doing? I'm going to violently revolt. It is well within my rights and legal responsibility and moral obligation, as a matter of fact, to do so. That is it. I also have a lot of friends who are in Gaza who are being bombed now who have always opposed Hamas. Of course, Hamas is not a popular political group, okay? It's not. There are polls that are conducted in the Palestinian occupied territories all the time. The only group that it's more popular than, however, in the eyes of Palestinians, both in Gaza and the West Bank, which is not really saying much, is the Palestinian Authority. Think about that. Think about why. Like, think about how unfavorable the Palestinian Authority is. Why is that the case? That is Israel's design for the Palestinian Authority. Just like every single Israeli administration has propped up Hamas as the only entity that defends Palestinians. There's a streamer on Twitch supporting this genocide. Of course there are. There are plenty of streamers and plenty of famous people and plenty of people in positions of power that are supporting this ethnic cleansing campaign. The victims, as always, are Arabs and Muslims, predominantly Muslim Arabs, so nobody gives a shit. Remember, if you say America deserved 9/11, you can get banned. But if you say Iran deserves a nuclear bomb, then you will not get banned. Okay? Iraq deserved to be invaded is not going to have the same level of emotional response It won't invoke the same level of emotional response from the Western world, even though America's invasion of Iraq led to millions of people dying, being murdered, ruthlessly slaughtered. Okay? That's it. That double standard is always going to exist.